They fought in Colorado, they fought in underground pyramids, but the final battle will take place in my living room today. Hi guys, so Alien Romulus is currently showing in cinemas. I've already seen it, but as tempting as it was to do another Aliens ranking, I already did that a couple of years ago, and I think to do it again, but with the addition of just one more movie, it would be a little bit repetitive. I don't think the placings in my rankings would change around that much. I mean, I did watch a bunch of Aliens films recently to get myself ready for Romulus, but even so, I've decided not to go down that path. I thought it would be much more fun to do a combined Alien and Predator ranking together, because both franchises are intertwined. They both take place in the same universe. I did do a solo Predator films ranking, again, maybe a year or two back, and you'll find both of those solo lists in my rankings playlist, but this is the first time I've ranked these films together. Very exciting. So why don't we jump into it? We've got 14 movies to get through today. So without further ado, let's dive in. Let's let the battle commence and find out which movie has come bottom of the pile. So first up we have The Predator. This was a disappointing film for most people who saw it. I don't remember it being that bad, although I have noticed that I haven't yet gone back to it a second time, which, if I'm honest with myself, does tell me something. But this feels like an attempt to make a really broad appealing, all-action film that appeals to all cinema goers, rather than just focusing on being a good Predator film. Now, probably the original vision by Shane Black, who wrote it, was for it to be the latter, but you know, studio interference and reshoots, and we ended up getting a movie that was probably not the original intention. And given that quite a few years have passed now since this came out, I imagine we're not going to get a director's cut or anything like that, so it will probably end up like this. This film just feels like it's constantly throwing stuff at you every 5 seconds of it. There's so much action, so many characters, there's very little space to breathe at any point during this story. You could easily get a headache watching this film, and it just needed a lot more care and attention than what it got. But on the positive side, the fact that this movie happened and did as badly as it did meant that they veered off into the direction of Prey, and we could end up getting a really interesting bunch of films beyond Prey now. Whereas if The Predator had done better at the box office, we might have ended up getting The Predator 2 and a steadily more annoying sequence of Michael Bay-esque films instead of Prey and what we are going to get. So maybe this is just a film that had to happen. But I want to re-emphasise, it's not terrible. This is a really tough school of movies today. Number 13, we have Alien Resurrection. So in preparation for this video, I actually rewatched 4 or 5 of the movies we're going to be talking about, specifically ones that I thought had the potential to move around in the rankings a lot compared to if I'd just relied on my memories to form the ranking. And Alien Resurrection was definitely a film I wanted to give a fresh chance to impress me. It didn't really. I think this one came bottom when I did my solo Aliens ranking. This time around, I watched the theatrical cut for probably the first time since I saw the film at the cinema. I noticed basically no difference. I think the extended cut has an extra 7 minutes on it, but it's the least essential director's cut of the early movies. So what's wrong with Alien Resurrection? Well, until all the aliens get free, it's a really solid movie. But as soon as all the main characters are trying to make their way back to the Betty in haste, everybody starts becoming really shouty and starts doing all this really unnatural dialogue. The script is not a very good one, it has to be said, and Ripley's place in this film is really pointless as far as I can tell. Her character is just so boring. Is it worth having this character here just so we can have Sigourney Weaver in the movie? I think what they should have done, if they insisted on having her in the movie at all, is to have her killed off fairly early on. Maybe she could have died instead of the Betty captain, because he's actually a really good character. I'm always really sad when he meets his maker after about 40 minutes or something. And the Winona Ryder character, Call, I'm really unsure about her as well. I like Winona Ryder as an actress, but I just don't like the fact that they've made this character an android. It doesn't really make any sense to me. She would have been perfectly fine as a human character. Now, there are some great action sequences in this film. I love the underwater stuff, albeit I take it that in the year that this film is set, 2187 or whatever it is, that humans can now hold their breath for like over 3 minutes, because that's what happens in this sequence. Everybody's doing it as well. It's not like just one or two strong swimmers. And later on in the movie, there's a terrific scene where Ripley goes into a room full of abandoned clones. I think it's past the water sequence. It might be before it, come to think of it. I'm honestly not sure at this point, but that's a great scene. But the thing is, you don't have to have Ripley going into that room to generate the appropriate emotion. I could walk in that room and feel emotional at all those poor clones that have been left in that state. And it could have been any character welling up and destroying the room. You didn't necessarily have to have it be Ripley, you know. The ending is fine by me. The weird white creature that gets created, I've heard some criticism say that whole plot development is no good. I don't mind that, but the movie overall is just really unsatisfying. It's got some just huge problems with it. Mainly the main two characters, Ripley and Call, who are just really badly conceived for this thing, and the dialogue throughout the film is really dreadful, it has to be said. But purely from an action point of view, it's still very watchable, and I've watched it many times over the years. At number 12, we have Alien vs Predator Requiem. It was very tight between this film and the next one up. There'll be some people who would put this one bottom of their 14, but I actually could have had it one spot higher than this in 11. I've always enjoyed this film. I've always defended it occasionally online. A lot of people say that it's too dark. Now, I never noticed this when I saw it at the cinema. I never noticed it when I first watched it on DVD. And then when I got to the part of my life that I started watching horror YouTubers channels, suddenly loads of people somehow mentioned that this film was really dark. And then the next time I watched the movie, lo and behold, I suddenly noticed it was dark. And I was like, okay, thanks, guys. But it's still not such a bad thing. I mean, there is this whole idea that what you can't see is actually scarier. So maybe just keep that in mind when you're watching this film. But as long as you've got your setup done okay in terms of where your TV is in the room, it's fine. You know, as long as you've not got glare coming through the window and hitting the screen, it's not difficult to watch this film. It does feel a little bit low-key compared to the first movie. You know, setting the whole thing in this small Colorado town. There is a wishful fanboy in me that would have preferred to have seen it take place in LA or New York, and that probably would have added another 100 million to the budget. I mean, the characters in this are very throwaway, but I love the fact that it's really hard-edged. I mean, this is an R-rated film, very gory, lots of delightfully gruesome scenes. I love the ending at the hospital. I think most fans of both franchises will be content with the implied score draw that you get at the end of this. I like the Predalien as a one-off concept. I thought that was pretty cool. And I like the fact that they've used the same alien noises that were in that were in Aliens. I love the fact that they've had that little throwback there. I always enjoy watching this film. I've seen it maybe 5 or 6 times over the years. If I'm going through all the films in order, you know, I'm perfectly happy to put this one on and enjoy it all over again. At number 11, we have Predators. It was very tight between this and AVP2. I really had to think about it before making my final choice, but I've just given the edge to Predators. This was a film that was clearly trying to recapture the magic of the original 1987 film with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and for the most part, it succeeds. I mean, this is a really fun action movie. I love the concept, this idea of having a load of criminals parachuted onto a predator planet. The characters are pretty good in this. I enjoy all their interactions. I love the fact that they all try and be these really hard badasses with mixed results. But the movie does have one huge flaw that I can never quite get my head around, no matter how many times I watch this. So usually I'm really enjoying this up to the point that Lawrence Fishburne turns up. Now, there's no problem with that character per se, but he takes the other characters into a predator ship, and at that point, all I want from the movie is for everything to move away from the jungle and permanently into the predator ship. I want to see more of it. I want to see all the rooms. I want to see an alien city, maybe like the one hinted at the beginning of AVP2. I want to see the planet. I want to see more than just the jungle. But the movie very quickly goes straight back into the jungle and we never leave it again. And I kind of feel like, well, if we were just going to spend the entire movie in a jungle, we could have just had this whole thing in South America again. You know, if you're going to take us to a predator planet, let us see it. Let us see some new stuff. But I guess they didn't have the creative vision to do more than what they did. Maybe they just didn't have enough budget. I don't know. I don't know the details of the financials behind this film, but I mean, the film itself is good. It's a really enjoyable action predator film. And it's even more enjoyable once you've seen The Predator and you come back to this one. But yeah, there is just that one little thing about it that always bugs me, and it's pretty much what's kept it outside of the top 10 today. At number 10, we have the first Alien vs Predator. Now, I didn't actually see this one at the cinema. From what I can recall, I had a lot going on in my life in 2004, and I didn't make it in time to see this on the big screen. The first time I saw this was when it came out on DVD. I instantly bought it as soon as it was available. I got the DVD, the one with the mostly white cover, and I went straight for the uncut extended version, and that's pretty much the only one I've watched for the last 20 years. I mean, it's only about 5 minutes longer than the theatrical version, but the other night, this was one of the films I decided to rewatch in preparation for this video, and for the first time ever, I watched the theatrical version because that's the one that's on Disney. I had a moment where I thought, you know what, no point digging around for the DVD, I can just press a button, get the film up on Disney, and off we go, and probably Disney will have a much more HD version than the DVD, because let's face it, most DVDs now are starting to look a little bit old and grainy, but I didn't notice much difference between the theatrical and the extended. The only obvious change is that the prologue is missing from the theatrical version, where we see some whalers dying like 100 years before the main events of the movie. But apart from that, it was just like watching the same movie that I've been watching these past 20 years. I've always enjoyed this film, though. I love the pyramid setting. I love the fact that the rooms all change around. I think they should have had it so that at least one character gets squidged when the rooms are changing. That would have really brought home just how dangerous that is. But I still love the whole concept of predators having this place to battle aliens. One big complaint is that the human characters are extremely useless in this film. They don't come across as bad characters. They're just killed so quickly. I mean, they are knocked over like 10 pins in this film. We go from like 50 characters to just one left very, very quickly, it feels like. But that's a knock-on effect of the fact that the runtime for this has been kept quite short. This and AVP2 are probably the shortest films in this ranking. They're only like an hour and a half or an hour 35 or whatever, but that's noticeably shorter than most of the other films in this ranking. I don't think they were going all in with this movie. I think they were a little bit nervous about whether there was a market for an Alien versus Predator film, whether audiences would go for that. And as such, I don't think they fully invested, that their whatever money they've got into it, because watching this, it does feel like you're getting a lot less meat on the bone compared to, say, the almost 2.5 hour experience of Aliens. But it's still a good watch. I've gone to it many, many times. And it's definitely the best of the AVP films. I really wouldn't mind seeing another one of these, and there has been a little bit of talk in some of Fede Alvarez's recent interviews that he wouldn't mind doing an AVP3. Whether they will ever actually risk doing another one, I don't know. Number 9, it's Alien Covenant, and the fact that this is languishing in 9th just goes to reinforce what a high quality list this is, because I rewatched this just over a week ago. It was one of the sort of mid-tier films that I identified as being one I needed to rewatch, and I had such a good time with it. All the alien action in this is fantastic, and the whole movie has definitely got Ridley Scott's high quality watermark stamped all over it. The film just looks gorgeous. I love all the planet exploration in this. I like the story concerned with David creating the xenomorph. The characters are a bit unremarkable. They've gone for a high body count in this, so we don't really get to know the characters that well. Even the main final girl, whose name escapes me, she doesn't really come into her own in this until about 10 or 15 minutes from the end. Now, there is a major flaw to Alien Covenant, which will probably keep it reasonably low on a lot of people's lists, and that's the fact that the ending never really gets resolved. Well, it doesn't get resolved. You know, you get this cliffhanger and then there's no follow-up. This film is basically the Empire Strikes Back of Alien movies, except there's no Return of the Jedi equivalent, so it's extremely unsatisfying. It's not the problem of this movie, but there was meant to be another film called Alien Awakening. That was the preliminary title. So this whole thing was meant to be a trilogy, and there was going to be a different focus on each film. So Prometheus, there was a strong focus on the engineers. This film, Covenant, strong focus on the aliens and the creation of them. And then the third film was going to be more focused towards AI and robots. And I would have really enjoyed that, I think, because I've always been fascinated with the synthetic side of alien lore. But sadly, we didn't get that film. I understand why, because Covenant was not a big success at the box office compared to Prometheus. So I get it. Although, one thing I get a lot less is why Noomi Rapace was not in this film, because it's really noticeable every time I watch this that character was given really short shrift. I don't know what went on behind the scenes with that, because initially she was in the movie and then she wasn't, and I don't think we've ever really had a satisfying explanation as to why that is, because it doesn't make any sense to me why you wouldn't use that character again in this film. Her absence in this bothers me more than the absence of Hicks and Newt in Alien 3. That's how strongly I feel. But looking at the movie as a whole, if you just watch this as a standalone Alien film, if you're in the mood for it, it's a damn good one. At number 8, we have Prey. I didn't know what to expect when this film came out. The fact that it was going straight to streaming did have me worried, but boy did they do a good job with this. And I absolutely love Amber Midthunder in the main role. She is such a good action heroine. So this is a back to basics Predator film. We've got a Predator in the 18th century in America going up against, I don't even know what the name of the tribe is, or the name of this particular race of people. My American history is not very good. In fact, it's pretty much just plain awful. But it's a very well-paced film. I don't think anything of note really happens in the first sort of half an hour, but the tension is being ratcheted up all the time, and we get some gorgeous scenery. I don't know where they filmed this, but it looks amazing. But when the action does start, it's all very well choreographed. The little bits of CGI are of a very good quality in this. Like the bear scene, for example, that could have gone wrong, but it looks really good. And each action bit just leads nicely into the next one. There's a good flow to this film once the big set pieces start happening. And by the end of this film, I'm just thinking, wow, what a movie. I mean, I can't believe this didn't go to a cinema screen. It's crazy. But I think it has left the franchise in a very good state now, because there seems to be more of a clearer vision about what the future could look like for Predator, whereas up to The Predator, I don't think anybody knew what to do with this whole thing, if anything. But now, I mean, I think there's a Prey 2 in development. There's another film called Badlands that I've heard about. So it could be that there's actually 2 Predator films being planned at the moment. It's been a while since Prey came out now, 2022, so it's been a couple of years, but I'm perfectly happy for them not to rush, just take their time and do it properly. But yeah, I'm excited about the future of the Predator franchise, mainly because of this film, and we'll see what comes about. But the fact that this has come 8th on the budget that it had, and the fact that it didn't go to the cinemas, that just shows you. At number 7, we have Prometheus. So it's quite funny looking back on the critical response that this got when it came out, now that we have Alien Romulus, because if there's one thing I keep hearing from a pocket of people about Romulus, it's Oh, it's too much like any other Aliens movie. It's like a greatest hits. There's too many homages. It gives you nothing new. It's we've been there, seen it, done it, got the T-shirt. Come on, we need more originality. But when Prometheus came out, some of the loudest critics were saying, "Where's the aliens? This doesn't feel like an aliens movie. What's all this about engineers? We didn't need that. We didn't need that bit of the first movie expanded upon. Just give us more aliens. Give us more of the same." I swear, the corridor of acceptability between something like Prometheus and something like Romulus is so narrow. You're never going to hit the sweet spot and please everybody. But this movie really reignited my love of Aliens when it came out, because I think I just kind of not really gone off the franchise in the noughties, but my fandom was very much in cryo sleep for a while. Sorry, that's a really cheesy analogy, but that whole era where we were just getting like Alien versus Predator films every now and again. I mean, I enjoyed seeing those movies, but they didn't capture my imagination in the same way that something like Prometheus did, because all of a sudden, for the first time in years, when this came out, I was like taking part in discussions online about, you know, how this movie connected to the original Ridley Scott film, and you know, it just really got me back into the whole thing in such a big way. And then it was a couple of years after this, I think, that Alien Isolation came out, and there was all this talk about what was next after Prometheus. And when you watch this film for the first time, you've got no idea where it's going, because obviously it's not going to be a standard Alien movie. So, you know, when this spaceship lands on the engineer's planet, you've no idea what's coming. It's really exciting. Like I said earlier on in the video, I love Noomi Rapace in this. That scene in the pregnancy chamber, that's a worldie. I mean, that is one of the best scenes in the whole franchise. And at the end, when there's a scuffle between the engineer and the alien, I just love that moment as well. Such a great movie. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine with Alien movies which just take a massive leap, like Prometheus, that they're brave enough to do a story that doesn't necessarily involve the aliens much at all. So this is a personal favourite of mine, and it looks phenomenal on 4K. This is actually the best 4K transfer I've ever seen. It's that good. It looks so gorgeous. Number 6, we have Alien Romulus. Hey, we were just talking about you. So at the time of doing this video, it's been barely a week, just over a week, since I saw Alien Romulus in the cinema, and I'm still buzzing about the experience. I absolutely loved it. I'm definitely in the group of people who were just praising this film to high heaven. I just had such a good time with it. In fact, over the course of the week afterwards, I was really tempted to go again. Actually, I hardly ever go and watch the same movie at the cinema twice. And actually, on this occasion, I decided not to. I thought to myself at the end, you know what, no, don't go again. Just wait for the 4K in like 2 or 3 months, and then I'll have a great time rediscovering the film again at home. But this film was absolutely worth waiting 7 years for. It was so good. It's probably the closest thing to an Alien Isolation adaptation we've ever had, or maybe ever will get. I really got Sevastopol vibes watching this. That's the name of the space station in Alien Isolation. Some really great characters here, some brilliant action scenes that just feel so original. It's easily the best facehugger Alien movie of all time. I loved all the callbacks and Easter eggs. But if you want to hear all my thoughts about Alien Romulus, check out my full review. It's only another video or two further back in my list. I only released it only a few days ago, so I won't say too much about Romulus. We'll move swiftly on. But the fact that this film has come 6th in this company after such a short space of time, if you'd have told me before I walked into the cinema that I was going to end up putting this film 6th out of 14 in an Alien versus Predator ranking with all these great movies around it, I would have snapped your hand off for that. You give away our position one more time, I'll make you bleed real quiet. I think a lot of people will be surprised that this film is only 5th. There are certainly people out there who would put this at number 1, even in a Predator ranking that has Alien films mixed in with it. It's such a classic, and it had no right to be. I mean, when they started production on this, they had no Predator. There was just this general idea of making an action film about a bunch of ex-soldiers in the jungle fighting an alien hunter. if they'd have got that alien hunter wrong, this could have been like one of the most embarrassingly laughable action films of the 80s. But the fact that they got it so right is incredible, because it's led to this film having the tag as one of the greatest action films of all time, I would say. It's led to this franchise that's still going to this very day, and everybody looks back on the original Predator as just being this awesome thing, which it absolutely is. Arnold Schwarzenegger in this as Dutch, it's one of his best characters he's ever done. All the characters in this film are really well realised, every single one of them. They've all got their little traits of their personality that work so well. You know, Jesse Ventura with his huge gun, and Shane Black with his jokes, and Billy's super cool. All of them are really good characters. The action is brilliant. The setting looks amazing. It genuinely looks like some really thick jungle in South America. And the Predator itself is a superb enemy in this. I first watched this in the early 90s on my dad's VHS copy of the movie, and it was so exciting to watch it at that age, because I knew I shouldn't have been watching it. I was like 12, 13. It said 18 on the box. I watched it one time with my dad, and when all the skinned bodies come out of the trees early on, I can vividly remember my dad sort of glancing over like, oh, should I be letting him watch this? But yeah, this film's great. Predator 1. The fact that it's only come 5th in my list is just one of those things. This is a very high quality list, but this is absolutely a 5 out of 5 movie for me. We're into those masterpiece movies now. Alien Romulus in 6th place was a 4.5 out of 5 movie, but Predator is 5 out of 5, and all the rest of the films from here on out are 5 out of 5s. And number 4, we have Alien 3. So you don't need me to tell you that this is a very divisive movie. If you ask somebody what they think of Alien 3, it's very unpredictable what the answer will be. I mean, there are probably loads of people who would put this movie 13th or 14th maybe out of all of these films, but you'll get another bunch of people who will treat it like I've done and put it near the top end. I used to think it was quite average when I watched it during the 90s. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was anything special compared to Aliens. But that all changed when I saw the assembly cut in the noughties. It adds on almost half an hour of footage back into the movie, and it makes the world of difference. I went from thinking the movie was sort of all right to thinking it was brilliant, and I've loved it ever since. Something else that helps with my nostalgia for this film is the fact that I used to play the Alien 3 video game on the Master System when I was a teenager. A few years ago, I actually watched somebody playing that game on YouTube, which is a real throwback for me. That same disc that came out with the assembly cut on it, it also had a 2-hour documentary about the making of the film, which also made me love the film even more, just seeing the journey of the film from script to screen. But there's so much to love about this movie. The characters are amazing. You got like Morris and the warden and Clemens, the guy with the low IQ. That there's so many cool characters in this prison, even though a lot of them are arseholes. And the production design of this whole thing, absolutely incredible. It's bonkers to me that they left it very late in the day to decide they were going to set the film in a prison, because the sets are just fantastic. It's such a great setting for an Alien movie. I was praising the sets of Alien Romulus in my review, but they don't even come close to what you get in this movie. It's just astonishing what they did, and I just find it amazing that David Fincher wants nothing to do with this movie, because especially with the assembly cut, it's a damn good movie. It's only just behind the top 2 Alien films for me. Number 3, we have Predator 2. So this is the highest ranking Predator film that we have today. I don't think a lot of people will appreciate the fact that I've put it higher than the first Predator film, but that's just how I feel. I absolutely love Predator 2. If you've followed the channel a long time, you will already know this. I can still remember in the early 90s when my dad suggested renting Predator 2, because we both loved the first one. We had that on VHS, and he just said one day, Saturday night, we're renting Predator 2, and we did, and I just loved every minute of it. I actually found it quite scary in places at the age that I was watching it, especially the bit where Harrigan's friend, Ruben Blades, goes to the crime scene in the dark and the Predator gets him. I can remember like shivering watching that scene. And the scenes on the train as well, they used to frighten me. You can just barely make out the Predator down the aisles. Really, really, really cool. Love the characters in this film. Bill Paxton, all the chums of Harrigan, they make a really cool team. And I mean, I could go through this movie chunk by chunk. There's literally nothing about it that I don't like. I just find it hugely entertaining. Definitely better than the first movie for me. I mean, I love both of them, but this one gets the edge. I love Gary Busey's section, that random agent. He's such a fun character. King Willie, I was going to say One-Eyed Willie for a second there. The scene in the tower block with where the Jamaicans just get taken out by the Predator. And I love that shot where the Predator's on top of the building and there's a lightning or something, and he just does that like pose or something. And Harrigan, for me, is a better character than Dutch from the first movie, because I think that's why a lot of people think less of this film, because of the fact that Schwarzenegger doesn't come back. They let it get into their heads that it can't possibly be as good as the first one, just because of that. But I love this character that Harrigan, that Danny Glover plays. I think it's a better character than his Murtaugh character from the Lethal Weapon films. And what I love the most about him is the fact that when it gets into the final act of this film, he actually starts chasing the Predator everywhere. He's not just running away from the Predator, desperately trying to survive. No, he's the aggressor. He's the one going on the attack, despite the fact that this creature is, obviously tougher than him. Oh, and that ending, where the 5 or 6 Predators come down. Amazing. Love Predator 2. So number 2, we have Aliens. I think most people, therefore, will have figured out by now what is my number 1. This one used to be my favourite Aliens film. I first saw it around about 91. I was about 11 at the time, and it rocked my world. I couldn't believe how incredible it was. It was like discovering a new religion, and I must have watched it about 10 times in the space of 2 or 3 years. I just kept putting it on every few weeks. I couldn't get enough of it. And then we rented Alien 3 after a point, and then Alien 1, I think. I think I used to prefer this one back in those days because it had the most action in, but over time I've gradually just swung more towards the original film. My tastes have changed over time. Plus, Aliens has one tiny little flaw in its director's cut, and the original film doesn't really have any flaws to my mind. So the thing that just bugs me slightly in the director's cut for this is the fact that we see all the colonists at Hadley's Hope. I think that takes away a bit of the mystery as to what happened with them. And if you're asking the question in your head right now, why I therefore continue to watch the director's cut, is because I really love the sentry gun stuff that you get later in the movie. But, I mean, this movie is just utterly fantastic. It's one of the best sort of sci-fi action films ever made. I could drone on about it for a long, long time, but I think I'm probably speaking to people who are of a like mind, because I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't enjoy Aliens or think that it's great. So I don't exactly need to do any convincing here, like maybe I did with Predator 2 5 minutes ago. So shall we leave it there and move on to what is officially my favourite film from either the Alien or the Predator franchise? We already know what it is, don't we? Yep. At number 1, we have Alien. So this is not just my favourite film of these two franchises, it's also my favourite film of all time. I did a video last year documenting my top 100 films of all time, and Alien came number 1. I think Aliens was in the top 10 somewhere. I think Alien 3 might have also been on the list much further down from memory, but looking back, I can't actually remember where most of the films finished in that list now. It's been so long since I did that video. I just remember Alien came number 1. That's the only definite thing I can remember. But it took a long time for this to become my favourite film ever. I first saw it in the 90s, and it was only sort of a few years ago that I finally thought, you know what, yeah, it is my favourite film ever. It took decades for me to get to that realisation. It's crazy, that, isn't it? As to whether any other film could ever dislodge it from its lofty position now, in my remaining years on this mortal coil, I do not know. I suspect not, though, but stranger things have happened, and who knows what amazing movies are going to come out in the next 20, 30, 40 years. I'm not going to live another 40 years. Cross my fingers I will, though, I'm not going to go into every last segment of this film just talking up how brilliant it is. I've spoken about this film several times on the channel already, so I'm just going to leave it there for today. It's been a long video. Alien is my favourite movie of all time. Hopefully you enjoyed me ranking all these Alien and Predator movies. I'm not going to do a reading update today. I will save that for the individual film reviews. That way when I next do a film review I'll have more to update. So I'll leave it there for today. Do let me know how you would rank these films in the comments below, and I'll catch you all again next time. Bye bye.